New mug. How's it going, everybody? It's RevKev here. Pray you're having an amazing day today. Happy New Year to all of you. 2020. I don't know about you, but it's still kind of blowing my mind that we're sitting here 2020, because it doesn't seem like it was all that long ago that I was out celebrating New Year's Eve 1999. But these 20 years have flown by real well. Hey, Stig Kenobi, awesome having you here. Happy New Year to you. Ooh, man, I just hit my tooth with my new mug. It's bigger than I expected. Yeah, January 2nd. Today's my first day back in the office after being off for a little bit. I work sporadically over the holidays. Today was a clean my office kind of day to get things good and fresh and ready for the new year ahead. I am a big introspective New Year's kind of guy. It's just kind of how I roll. I always use this time of year to reflect on the past and look to the days ahead. So this is I know, 1999. It really doesn't seem that long ago at all. Like, I remember exactly where we were. Like, and the party, my wife and I, we actually got married in 1999. We got married February 1999, and just going to that party. And back then, I was still working in the computer industry. I was making a boatload of money working on the Y2K bug. And I don't know how many people remember the Y2K bug, but that was when we thought all the missiles and airplanes were going to fall from the sky because of the fact that our computers were not ready to calculate dates where 00 was actually bigger than 99. So I spent 3 years working in computer code, changing date fields in as many accounting and insurance programs as we could. And you're right, and 1999 was also when episode 1 came out. Funny, embarrassing story. We'll share this before I dive into what I actually want to talk about today. But in 1999, we were just a few weeks away from our wedding. Again, we got married end of February 1999. My wife and I, we were chatting, and I was just in a good mood. I was just beaming and glowing, and I was all excited. And my fiance, Danielle, was like, oh, why are you so happy? And I'm like, I'm just so excited. The most amazing day is coming soon. And she thought I was talking about our wedding, but I was talking about Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And I gave her the impression that I was looking more forward to Star Wars Episode 1 than our wedding day. So my advice to men, don't do that. That kind of came back and didn't bite me in the butt. She still married me. But made for a rocky week for sure. So anyways, hopefully all is well with you, Stig. And I saw on Twitter that you're dealing with some fun weather there in your neck of the woods. So hopefully everything is going all right there with the weather. We've finally been starting to get some snow here at my home. Normally by this time of year, we're knee deep in snow. But it's been so mild this year. The snow was actually really low, and yesterday was the first time I actually shoveled snow off my driveway all winter because it's just snowed and melted. So this is pretty cool. That starting to feel a little bit more like winter. I like the winter. I enjoy this weather. So what I wanted to do today on my afternoon coffee break, some people might be wondering, a coffee break, it seems awfully late in the day. I don't tend to get out, I don't leave right at 5 o'clock. I don't have a 9 to 5 life, obviously, with what I do. My work is very sporadic and so like that. And so I tend to have a cup of coffee towards the end of the day, then try to put in another couple of hours, and then head home for dinner. So, but what I want to do from time to time is do more of these coffee break chats. You see, I am very privileged And I'm very fortunate that I get to learn from so many great people, and I get to see so many different amazing things just going on in different people's lives and on social media and different things like that. And I have this kind of itch for kind of sharing some of the stuff that I learned. And so that's kind of what I want to do in these coffee break times is just kind of get together, talk about a few things that are going on, some things that are piquing my interest, whether that's in geek culture, pop culture, whether that's in leadership, whether that's in community service, anything like that. Just kind of going to share a little bit about things that are going on in my head. And honestly, over the Christmas holidays this year, I think I've shared this before in other videos. A couple of years back, I got diagnosed with a generalized anxiety disorder. It's very manageable. Nothing like some other friends of mine that I know who struggle with anxiety and things like that. Yeah, coffee breaks. Where you spill the beans. Oh, that could be my official tagline. Hopefully, if I start getting monetized, I'll send the royalties your way if I use that tagline. Stig. That's really good. Yeah, but over the Christmas holidays, I don't know what it was. If it was just because I was home more and on my cell phone more, but my social media was so toxic. And it was the most toxic that I have ever seen. Now, I have a vast variety of people that I follow on social media, people who follow me. I am a huge believer of connecting and learning from and building relationships with people who believe different than me, who think different than me, who live different than me. Their culture is different than mine, because we can become very segregated in our bubbles. We can get really pigeonholed into, hey, white, male, evangelical, Christian, Canadian, and we all think the same, and we all live the same, we all act the same, believe the same, and things like that. So, yeah, and so I'm very intentional with getting out of that box that it's easy to be in. So it's normal for me to see a whole bunch of stuff that's very different and controversial and things like that. But this Christmas was crazy. And Stig, I think he nailed it right there. It was very toxic. I've never seen a movie trigger so many people as The Rise of Skywalker has. Like, on every side of the fandom. Like, on the Fandom Menace people, on the Grey Council or Grey Order people, on the everything in between people, on the Reylo people, on the SJW people, on the classic people, the prequel people, whatever category you find yourself in as a Star Wars fan, it's insane. It's just absolutely insane how social media was going. And it was actually very depressing for me because people who I really like and really admire and people who I've been learning from a lot over the last few years, just seeing all this hatred and everything kind of popping up was like, ugh, this sucks. It's like high school all over the place, all over again. And I really don't have time for high school. So that got me thinking again, because this is the time of year when I do a lot of thinking. And so I was thinking about New Year's resolutions. I make New Year's resolutions every year. Every single year, I sit down very intentionally. I grab a journal and I journal through this and I make a New Year's resolution. Hey, Drunk 3PO, great to have you here. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. So I make New Year's resolutions every year. I usually, like I said, I grab a journal and I kind of just journal my thoughts and feelings, different things I'm reading, and I go through this. And now, honestly, if I was being, if this was confession, I break them every year. Very rarely does a New Year's resolution stick with me all year, but it tweaks and it changes and it gets modified based on just how the year goes, right? And so I wanted to just talk a little bit about New Year's resolutions today while I'm just kind of finishing my coffee break and talk about some of the things that I'm going to be doing this year to help me grow, to kind of just grow as a human being, to help me grow as a leader, to help me grow in YouTube and hobbies and things like that. So, hey there, I'm True Skills. Great to have you here. Thanks for coming by. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I think, you know what, gonna put this right here on the screen. I think, Stig, I think you nailed it, right? You know, when you watch episode 4, right, it resonated with the culture. It resonated with everyone when it came out. What we're seeing now is the opposite. Instead of the arrival of Star Wars, we got a forced departure in a way. I totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. So before we jump into some of the things I am working on for resolutions, I'm just curious, some of you guys here that are joining now or people who are going to see this video later on, I'd love to know, do you make New Year's resolutions? Is this something that you do? If you have one, why don't you can share that in the comment section here or in the chat. Would love to know what you're doing. I shared on a video last night, one of the first things that I'm doing is I am starting to learn how to play guitar. This has been something that's been on my mind for probably about 5 years. So my family is actually very musical. My wife is very musical. My kids are very musical. We love music in our home. I always have music playing. Like, that's just kind of the way it goes. I've got Spotify playing on our Google Homes. We've got a Google Home in nearly every device in every room because, you know, if the government wants to listen in on my family, knock yourself out, Google. I got nothing to hide. So we're really into music, but I don't play an instrument. And I'm actually one of the few who doesn't. My wife can pink at the piano a little bit. My daughter plays a little bit of piano, plays bass guitar. My son plays trumpet, and he pinks at the piano a little bit as well. And so I've always just wanted to play guitar. So 3 years ago, I got a little bit of Christmas money in my stocking that year, so I bought a guitar. And I bought Rocksmith, the video game, for my PS4. Played it for about 3 months, and then put it away, and then never took it out again. So the reason for that is I'm trying to very intentionally spend less time on this. It's very easy for me to sit down in my comfy lazy boy recliner and grab the cell phone and spend way too many hours on this. Way too many hours. So the hope is at least 30 minutes a day. That's just one Netflix show. That's just half an hour of scrolling through Twitter arguments, of scrolling through what new controversy is happening in the Star Wars community that I love so much. Just to take some time, practice some chords, practice the strumming, practice, getting to know and get familiar with the guitar. So, and the hope for that is just to draw me into music. I love all kinds of music. I love, classical music. I love music scores, movie scores. I love heavy metal. I love hip hop, R&B. Like, I just like all kinds of music. So that's kind of the goal with that, just to get my heart a little bit out of some of all these toxic things that are going on. And so I'm just going to double check the chat here and see what we got. See, so Stig says, so you make a pile of them, make a pile of New Year's resolutions, the same ones each year. Yeah, some of mine are the same thing. Go to the gym and eat healthy. Those two keep coming up every single year as well. So we do that, those typical ones that come up all the time. So the first thing that I'm doing is just in that whole idea of music, just to try to be very intentional, less time on the screen. And my hope is then that this is something that I can do with my wife and do with my kids, get one of them on the piano and playing guitar, just, singing together, listening to music together, I think is just a real blast. And we'll never be the Partridge Family or the Jacksons, but at least it's a good way to just spend some time together as a family. So that's the first thing I'm doing. The second thing I'm doing is a couple of years back, I read this amazing book by a guy named Greg Wells. So Greg Wells is a PhD. He's a doctor. He's actually up here in Canada. And so I love being able to read more books like this and leadership books from Canadians. Not that I have a problem with anybody else in the world, but just my context sometimes here in Canada is a little bit different than in the US and in Europe, around the world. And so it's just kind of nice getting a perspective from some Canadians on these topics. So he wrote this book here called The Ripple Effect. And kind of the tagline is sleep better, eat better, move better, think better. And it's just this whole idea of that there's kind of these 4 key areas of life when we're looking at our mental health, when we're looking at just life in general. If you can make, and he calls them these 1% changes, you can make these small 1% changes in these areas of your life to help you sleep better at night, to help you eat better, to help you move better, kind of keep your body active, and to help you think better. And the way this book is really structured, I thought was really smart, because it's not like, here, do this, then do this, then do this, then do this, because we're all different. Like for me, for example, eating better doesn't come naturally, because I have what I call a head-heart job. It's very stressful. I deal with people. I deal with some problems. I get and I'm very humbled and privileged that people invite me into their lives. But I hear the incredible joys and highs of their lives. But I also hear some of the lows and the most difficult times of people's lives, and that can linger a little bit, right? That can linger in my heart. That can linger in my mind, and so I tend to not sleep well because of that. And also I go through seasons of work where I'm incredibly busy. So I'm jumping around like crazy. And so it's like McDonald's in the car on the way to the next meeting, McDonald's on the car on the way in between here. So, or order a pizza to just have it delivered to the church, in between different things that I'm working on. So I can eat really bad. And so, but what I've found interesting is if I just try to change my diet, it's so hard just for me to just start there, right? And so what this book has taught me, it actually, for me, I eat better when I start exercising more. So instead of focusing on my eating, I'm actually focusing on what he calls move better, exercising a little bit more. Because if I were just to move a little bit more, get a little bit more exercise during the day, go for a walk every day. I even got kind of one of these things right here by my desk, just kind of spend. Holy smokes, I can barely even do it now, but just kind of spend some time working your chest, just kind of getting the heart moving a little bit. Like when I do those type of things regularly, then suddenly I naturally start eating healthier. And so what I'm going to be doing this year in 2020 is I'm going through this book again and trying to find what are those 1% changes that I can start implementing in there. So seems like a lot. I've got 2 New Year's resolutions already. Get playing that guitar, bring a little bit more joy into my life. Going through this book, these 1% changes that I want to do. Yeah, another tip is dinners. Yeah, consider the veggies as dinner, the pork chops, whatever on the side. That's a great point. My wife actually has a number of food, not allergies, but food affects her differently, and there's a number of foods that will kind of cause a lot of inflammation, bring up a lot of pain, fibromyalgia, things like that. So she's really amazing at kind of controlling our food. So dinner times, 99.9% of the time, are great. Where I go off the rail is when I leave the house, because suddenly I'm on my own. And if she didn't make my lunch for me, I'd be eating really bad. So, but dinner is a big thing. We kind of have that smaller meat size. We don't need all the meat that we eat, and predominantly veggies and things like that. Totally agree. So that's one of the things that my wife is doing, and we want to get better at as well. And then the last thing that I'm doing, and this is something that, again, I put this on my social media. And you know what? And I'm totally open. If anyone wants to join in on this, anyone is welcome to. I'm just opening up my email here at the same time. So I've got a link here I want to cut and paste. But basically what I am doing very, very intentionally is this year for 2020, I'm going to go through reading the entire Bible. You know, the whole book of the Bible, you can read it. If you commit to about 7 minutes a day, you can read the whole thing. Now, you know, I think I've shared my personal faith journey on this before, or if you listen to my sermons or you know who I am, you've heard the story. I actually spent most of my kind of young adult life as an atheist. You know, church wasn't a big part of my upbringing. In fact, I didn't like the church. I didn't like God. I didn't like Christians. Really didn't want anything to do with God or the church. I thought it was a scam. Thought it was just to kind of control dumb people. And then I actually bought a Bible to read it for myself to disprove the existence of God. And then it was actually through that time of reading the Bible for myself, instead of someone telling me what it said and, you know, whether they believe in it or don't believe in it. I'm a big believer. Do the research yourself. Stop living like sheep and letting everyone dictate and tell you what to believe. Research it, study it for yourself. And in studying it for myself, it just spoke to me. It just really did, and it just changed my life. And so what I have been doing, this is kind of one of the first Bibles I bought, kind of daily study Bible for men. And what I've been doing since 2005 is coming up with a one sentence. It's a possible plot holes. Yeah, that's what happens when it's written in multiple languages over thousands of years. But when you study the stuff, when you get your master's degree in biblical studies, then you learn some really cool stuff. But that's another video for another time. But what I do is I come up with a one sentence prayer. Just one sentence that I try to pray every single day. And then I go through this 1 year Bible reading plan. And so exactly, disproving God is about as difficult as proving he exists. And I was arrogant and prideful enough to thought I would be the guy to finally prove that he didn't exist. I was pretty arrogant as a young man. And hey, Stallone fan, thanks for stopping by and leaving the like. I really appreciate it. But what I do is, like I said, I go through this plan, 1 year Bible plan. You read a couple of chapters from the Old Testament, a couple of chapters from the New. You read a proverb, you read a psalm. And for me, this is just a great way to kind of build that habit of just kind of spending that day, slowing down a little bit. Again, it gets me off of this, even though I'm reading it on this. Make sure Twitter isn't open or Facebook isn't open. But then just kind of focusing on these one prayer. And so this year, it's funny, I've been doing this since 2005. And then I didn't do it in 2018 and 2019. Don't know why. I just didn't. I'm doing something else, I guess. I was still reading my Bible. You got to say that as a pastor. Of course, I'm still reading my Bible. But this year, what I'm doing is, this is what I'm actually praying every single day this year. Is I'm praying, Lord, help me to lead with dignity, integrity, trust, and humility. Lead with dignity, integrity, trust, and humility. I can very easily get angry. I very easily can become crusty. I can very easily get on the bandwagon with all the stuff that's going on online. I can get there on Twitter and I can start sending tweets and all that kind of stuff too. But that's not who I want to be. I'm opinionated. I've got some pretty strong opinions, and sometimes it's good and right to share those things. But sometimes I think it's, for me, in my life, it's just not. So I really want to do that. And this kind of came out of an article that I read earlier in the year. Let me see if I can share this here. How do you share my screen? Share that, share this. So this comes from this article here by a guy named Kerry Newhoff. Again, another Canadian. He's a Christian leader, blogger, author, pastor here in Canada. And so he wrote this article, so 10 Ways the World Dramatically Changed in the 2010s. And I found this interesting because I've been working here now where I am since 2010. So I'm coming into my 10th year here. And here he's kind of studying the Canadian context, which I'm sure is very similar to the US and to Europe, anywhere else in the world. And he talks about all the ways that culture has changed in the last 10 years. And if I look at the organization that I work at, if I look at the friend group I have, and the people around me, I can really see a lot of these changes. And so he goes through some of these difficult things, sorry, not difficult things, but he talked about, right, it's difficult to impact a world that you don't understand. And that just kind of resonated to me. And so the first thing in here really jumped off the page, where it says, we seem to be a lot angrier and more polarized. Yep. That pretty much summed up everything that I was reading over Christmas. Right, back in 2010, Twitter wasn't the rant machine it has become today. Nope, it was still something you posted your food pictures on and used to connect with friends and share ideas. So I found this fascinating. And kind of goes through, right? Anger can get you heard even if you have nothing to say. And sadly, we've discovered that hate generates more clicks than love. And we know that's true. We know the YouTube algorithms seem to, really gravitate towards this anger, more this polarization, and hey, and people have figured out how to milk it for monetization. And God bless you for that. If you're making money off of that, knock yourself out. Nothing wrong with that at all. But as a leader, in my context, for me, that's not great. Right. And so for me, and this is what really spoke to me, our unhealthy culture is hungry for healthy leaders. Be one of them. Lead with dignity, integrity, trust, and humility. And you might be surprised at the response you get over time. And that just really resonated with me when I read that statement this morning. So that's why I made this my prayer for me this year. If you might be surprised at the response you get. I'm not trying to make money off of YouTube. I'm not trying to get, 20 million followers. I'm just trying to have a good time and meet people who think different than me and, and grow and learn together. So, oops, how do I stop sharing? So yeah. And so that's what I'm going to be doing. So what am I going to do? I'm going to see here. I think I posted this. If anyone is ever interested, this is the link. You can take this link. It'll bring you to an app called YouVersion. It'll bring you to this daily plan that me and a bunch of my friends are going through. And I just opened this up. If anyone wants to be a part of this, and I don't care what you believe, Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, atheist, whatever, if you're just interested in reading it together with a group of people, and there's no judgment, people can ask questions, people can comment on it. Or you can just kind of peek in and see what other people are talking about. And I'm totally cool with that. So I just wanted to make that available for anyone that wants to join in on that. So I do believe there's just something about community, and when we're learning and growing and asking questions, I think that's totally awesome. So that's I'm also a big believer that, and I know this is not in the history of the church, I realize that, but this is something that I really want to see changed in my lifetime, is I actually believe that the church should be the safest place to ask questions about anything. The world is talking about a whole lot of crazy stuff. And I think the church should be a place where we can talk about difficult things, where we can, wrestle through difficult topics in love and grace and peace and mercy with joy and humility and integrity and all of those things. So I welcome people of different perspectives and viewpoints, and I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. Just trying to help us all grow as a little bit better as human beings this year. So that's kind of what's been going on in my mind over the last few days. Coffee's so good today. People ask me how much coffee I drink, and I drink 1 cup of coffee a day because I never finish it. I never, ever, ever finish a cup of coffee because I get busy, I get distracted, I have ADHD, I'm easily distracted, and so I'm always dumping the coffee and refilling it all throughout the day. So I only drink 1 cup a day. Probably adds up to about a pot, but that's another video for another time. Anyways, so these videos, these coffee break times, I'm going to try to do these probably about once a week. I haven't, and I'm going to pick an official day that I'm going to do that. Don't know exactly when that's going to be yet because I have a volunteer who's helping me get my life organized. And so my calendar and my email and all that stuff is becoming way too much that I can handle. So I'm actually getting some help with that. So I'm going to find a consistent time during the week to have these type of chats. I want to keep it to about half an hour is my plan. Depending on the questions and things like that, it might be a little bit longer. So yeah, so that's it. New Year's resolutions. This is what I'm doing with my life. Hopefully you've got some good plans to help you grow as well this year. As always, I just really appreciate everyone who's a part of the community, who watch the videos, who like the videos, who comment. It really means the world to me. And until the next video, I'm going to sign off now. So have a great day. God bless you. And we'll talk to you soon. Take care.